I'll introduce myself, you do yours, and then we'll get to it. And 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to On the Blog, January 21st. Joe Ferfari.
We outside. We're here, man.
We're back to talk about the Raptors. It's been a while since we've done a show, so we want to talk about the trades that happened. OG's gone. That was a little bit longer ago. And then also Pascal. With Pascal being gone, I feel like that one hurt a lot for maybe more than OG, because I feel like he played on that championship team. He was like the second or third guy on that title team, and he meant a lot to the city, drafted by the team and everything. So I want to get your thoughts on the trade, and then also what you liked about the return and how you felt when Pascal left. So.
Well, big blow to Toronto fans all over. You know, Pascal, I think the only guy remaining from 2019 is Chris Boucher. That's the only guy left from the championship team. And chances are Chris Boucher is going to be out of the door too, man. You know, but big blow to all of us Toronto fans. Pascal was a huge part of it. You grew up here. He was part of the bench mob to the start.
Yeah. The G League team from back then. Yeah, with Fred, they won the title with Norm Powell. Yep.
So he was one of those guys that actually you saw like flourish into the player that he is today, the all-star that he is, right? So it's bittersweet, but you want the best for him. You know, sometimes you gotta say goodbye for the people that you want to see succeed. You know, and let's face it, this is Scotty's team. It's Scotty's team moving forward. It was bound to happen. You got a young core right now, going back to the OG Anunoby trade. You know, you got Quickly, you got Barrett, great pieces, great assets, you know, and now you're building around Scotty Barnes. And that's the way the Raptors are taking about it. I thought, you know, with what Masai did, I think he waited a little too long, which is why we didn't get all that we needed, but we did get a haul. Don't get me wrong, the GMs are very, since Rudy Gobert, that 5 first rounds, I don't think anybody's got a little scared about picks and stuff. So you got 3 first round picks. You can't ask for more. You got Bruce Brown, which I'm sure they're gonna probably flip to another first. A haul of seconds that we were talking about before. You know, this is the way we're going. This is the way it's got to go. And to be honest, you got 2 first rounders. You got a 2026 first rounder. You didn't have any first rounds this year. You do now on a rebuild team. For a team like us that needs those. Yeah. We need picks. Pascal was a 27th round pick. Look at the all-star that he became. So we've done pretty good with our first round picks. We've done pretty good with our drafting and getting players, you know. So hey, let's go towards the future and let's see how things will turn out.
So that was what I was going to ask. Did the Raptors wait too long? I feel like we did talk about this last time when we said last year the Raptors really fought hard. They kept Fred, which was a massive mistake. And I think Masai realized you can't lose these guys that are all-stars or borderline all-stars for nothing, right?
Yes.
Big mistake not trading Fred at the deadline, because you get into that playing game, they get killed by Chicago, water under the bridge, now that's all done. What was really kind of telling for me was that Masai press conference. I don't know if you saw how much you saw of it. I didn't watch the entire thing, but when Masai was crying, talking about how it hurt him to trade Pascal, right?
Yeah.
So rumor is that he wanted obviously a big extension. He was due for a supermax, which he was not going to get. But I think that they looked at it and they said, we have Scotty coming up. We have a lot of young guys. We don't want to pay $200, let's say $40 million to Pascal. But that's the thing. Did they wait too long? Because last year, if you trade him a year ago, you probably still get 3 firsts. The Raptors didn't get anybody that Indiana. I remember talking about Jarace Walker, Jalen Smith, Nembhard, Buddy, Benedict Mathurin. They didn't get one player really, other than obviously Bruce Brown. But he's not a young core guy. He's 27, 28 of that. But to not get one player there where Indiana said, you know what, we're going to keep all of our guys. We're just going to give you some players. If you do this trade last year, you probably get 2 of those players, plus the picks. So maybe Masai being stubborn, like I think everybody kind of caught up to his Jedi mind tricks where it's like, you know, we're not going to let you fleece us anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that it really bit them in the ass.
I think the fact is that with Pascal having the contract year and him saying that he won't re-sign, that's what
it brought down his trade value too.
It really did. And that's what bit us in our leg. Now, Masai, I understand why, to a certain degree, wanted to kind of check out the roster, brought in some pieces, with the Schroeder, try to see if he could run it back, see if we were competitive, and try to see if we should be buyers or sellers by this point, right? If you have a plus record, you will have a record where you're in the fourth, in the fifth, in the middle of the pack. You could easily turn this around and be a buyer right now and actually add assets into your team to make this team a little bit stronger. That's how you got your Jakob Poeltl. That's why you brought that chemistry. And yes, you lost Fred VanVleet. I think that's the reason why they're like, listen, we're going nowhere, sell. Which started with OG. You brought in a great asset in quickly, RJ, young guys that, Barrett, hometown guy. So now he's going to be playing from the heart, wanting to do the best for this team, quickly being his really good friend, them growing up together and in New York. And now you got that chemistry there. You got that asset with Scotty, great core. I could see this team growing. I could see this team becoming something. Obviously, you got to still add a lot of more pieces to this. I still do think that we need a shooter. Grady Dick is not it.
Grady Dick, I was going to say yesterday, because I've been as low as him as you could possibly be. In the best case, so I guess he has to at least hit his shots. And yesterday he hit, I want to say 3 or 4 threes. He had a better game shooting. He's not going to give you much else other than that. But they need to play him, or else his value is just going to keep going down. Right?
Absolutely.
But now Trent's rumored to go, which apparently the Lakers, I watched them play Brooklyn. They were atrocious. They did not look like an NBA team. I caught them on a bad night. They looked really bad. I don't know, this team needs shooting, but you're going to trade arguably your best shooter in Trent now. So that's going to hurt you probably a little bit more. Raptors right now are in 12th place, okay? So they're not getting any lower because below them is the Hornets, the Wizards, and the Pistons, 9, 7, and 4 wins. Raptors are at 16. Nets at 17. The Hawks are in the play-in. The Raptors are only 2 games out of the play-in. Now, this is where it kind of gets tricky because, at this point, you don't have your pick anyway, so you may as well go for that play-in game. It's not like last year where you get to keep your pick. Top 7 protected. Do you want to see this team get to the play-in? Do you care?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to see them go there. This young core developing together, playing that type of basketball, it only makes you grow. It only makes you, the camaraderie be there, right? Teamwork, you get all of that. You learn how different styles are being played. You want to see this team go as far as it can now because this is a team you're building around anyways, right?
Yeah.
Your RJ Barretts, your Quickleys, your Scotty Barnes, the more experience, the more they learn, the more the basketball that they play together, the better it is going to be for that core. Now, Gary Trent, to comment on that, you don't mind to see that guy go because it's on his contract year. You're not going to
maybe you send him and Bruce Brown together and get more, right?
I thought he was going to be sent with Pascal in the first place. So that way you get someone back in the trade. But everything works out. They all have a plan. I think right now Gary Trent's stock is as high as it's going to be right now.
Yeah.
Having 2-3 games where
he went off a little bit.
Yeah, he's been consistent. This is where you want to see. This is where you're going to get the value of these players that, essentially are going to actually do something for you in terms of future, whether you're going to get a draft pick, whether you're going to get a young guy, cash considerations, where you have the salary cap where in the off season you can get something. So now's the time to unload your guys, to offload the guys that you don't see into the future, which you could add your Chris Bouchers, your Jakob Poeltls, which is funny because you traded a first round pick for Jakob Poeltl and now you don't even have that first round pick.
That's
the
what I mean.
Spurs have them.
Yeah.
And they're just looking to
So
grow.
the Spurs are going to get a top 3 pick of their own. They're going to get the Raptors, which might be 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, top
right?
10, I would say. Top 10 to 12 for
sure. You
sure.
think about it, the guy that's going to get drafted in that 9 or 10 spot is... And Poeltl, you know what I mean? He's a starting center in the NBA. He's not great, but he's a starting center in the
Absolutely.
NBA. You don't trade a top 10 pick for a guy like that.
No.
Right? And then quickly I want to wrap up with the Raptors because you ended up mentioning about how Pascal wanted to see how the season was going to go before he made any trades. Pascal, Masai and Webster.
Yes.
Now, me, as an outsider or whatever, a fan of this team that follows the NBA, I would question Masai and Webster's insight if you actually think that whatever roster they put together at the beginning of the season was going to be anything more than an 8 seed going into the season. Was there any, I know we added Dennis Schroeder, you lose Fred. When I went to the season, I think we talked about it, the ceiling for them was maybe a 9-10.
Yes, it was, but you had the potential with Scotty's growth to see, hey, is Gary Trent going to be that shooter that they're looking for? Is Schroeder coming? Because Schroeder was the MVP of the EuroLeague. You know, you're bringing in players that are not just, you know, like they're doing decent, but you still kept your nucleus, I would say. Yes, you lost Fred VanVleet, but you got Schroeder, which I thought would be better for the Raptors on the long haul because he's a little bit bigger, faster. He's got
And he,
more
the beginning of the
playmaker.
season, he was fine. You know what I mean? Like the shooting hasn't
Absolutely.
been great, but he's still like probably a sixth man or seventh man on
Yeah.
or what he was with the Lakers last year, right?
Yeah.
Like a backup point guard that comes in and can score 16 for you. Right?
Absolutely.
But again, like when you look at the East, my whole thing is Celtics, Bucks, Sixers, Cavs, Knicks, Heat, Pacers, Magic, and then you get into like the Bulls, Hawks, Nets territory, which is where the Raptors are. They were never better than any of those teams that we mentioned. And that's why for me, it's like Masai wants to do this and talk about all this, and we want to win games and stuff. It's just like,
You gave it a shot. You heard
but was it? But was
there
it?
wasn't, and I agree.
Was
I
it like? Was it bad?
Precious Achua didn't take the step forward that we needed
And he
him
hasn't
to.
in 3 years.
Chris
right?
Boucher hasn't taken that step forward that you needed him to. Podol, what we needed was a big guy. We added the big guy, but you saw that it really did not make a difference because at the end of the day, this NBA now you need shooting, and if your shooters are not shooting, what are you really gonna do? They thought they had that with Grady Dick. I remember they started him at the start
When
of
he
the
was
season.
unplayable, they sent him to the G League. That's what I mean, right? I
And
just
so a lot of guys that they tried.
they
to
put a lot of
insert-
faith in with like blind faith, and I just think
Yes.
like I think it was the wrong mistake. And I think getting back to these trades, it costed them because sure the OG trade was pretty good. I mean, you get two guys like RJ went third overall, and then quickly is a starting point guard, great.
Yes.
But with the Pascal one, like I said, the 3 first, they're all gonna be like the 25th kind of pick, great. Like I said, I just think you put faith in a team that was never good to begin with. They're a bottom 10 team in the NBA. And you do this, you lose time, you lose a year of development, but it's really a lack of development. You lose out on assets. I just think it was bad practice from management.
I agree. But they're facing it now and they're fixing up and putting the bandages where they need to. And the fact is that now they're getting the draft stock, they're getting the young assets, and they're just gonna move forward from here, which means, hey, do not stop, do not press the brakes. You need everybody out now. At this point in time, you need to get rid of all the guys that you're not gonna be using to build around Scotty Barnes. So to add to that, you got to get your Jakob Podol's out of here, get your Chris Boucher's out of here, you need your Gary Trent's out of here, and Dennis Schroeder, you're gonna use him right now for his contract to have a backup for quickly. He's a backup
capable
point guard,
player, yeah.
capable player. You don't mind stuff like that, and then you just move on. You bring your young guys, you just play the young guys, you develop the young guys, and move forward from there.
All right, let's move on from the Raptors. I want to get to the Western Conference. In the East, everything's pretty much been status quo. Celtics, Bucks, Sixers, the usual. I want to get into the West. Minnesota and OKC right now sitting at first and second in the West. Not too many people saw either of those there because I think both teams were playing teams last year, give or take, from that 8 to 10th spot there. Which of those teams do you see can stay and maybe both? And how do you see kind of the West? Is it still Denver's to lose? And what teams do you see in the West making that jump, possibly getting to like a West final or West semifinal?
So I think we kind of talked about this before with Anthony Edwards actually taking that next step, and you can see that since he's been given the keys of the Minnesota offense and them running everything through him, how successful they've actually been. I think he and Shea and obviously Steph Curry are the top 3 guards right now in the Western Conference that are like unbelievable that you could interchange at any given night to take over the game in the West.
And I want to mention it, and I hate to do it, but Harden and the Clippers have come to life as well.
I think right now the team to dethrone the Denver Nuggets would be the Clippers.
Right? Yeah.
And I wasn't a big fan of the Clippers,
Neither
but
was
you
I.
gotta give credit where credit is due. If you have Paul George, Kawhi, and James Harden playing this kind of basketball, which is actually working, how are you stopping that? You got Paul George, which at any given night can take over. You got Kawhi, which is a closer, and then you got James Harden, which has always been a great playmaker. It's just there was other issues that you dealt with. But with him, Joel Embiid won his MVP last year.
Yeah.
You know, with him running the show. So James Harden has been an asset, which I know the media and everybody took, you know, their fair jabs at him, but he's been showing that he's still capable and he's made Clippers capable. Now to comment on OKC needs another big guy. They need another big guy on that team. You don't know how good Chet's gonna hold out. He is kind of frail. I would get another big guy into there. You know, you're looking at.
Would you take a guy like Pirtle if you can get him?
I would. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now, if OKC is looking, they should be calling the Raptors, saying if Jakob's available, getting a couple young guys there and kind of going towards that. They have the draft capital. That's something I would approach as a Raptors GM to say, hey, you guys have assets, you guys have those guys, but you guys are
When you
actually.
play Jokic in the playoffs, you're going to need a legit 7-footer.
You need a legit
put a body
7-foot.
on someone.
Exactly. So Jakob Poeltl would make most sense for OKC. You got Minnesota; they're doing very well, but one thing that I see that they're lacking is a point guard. Maybe they're calling the Raptors on Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah.
Hey, we need a backup point guard. We need someone to be there, interchange with Mike Conley.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he's been good, but Mike Conley at sometimes has been shaky in the playoffs. And that goes back to his Utah days, right? So you don't want to make the same mistakes. You got teams there that are contenders, but I just don't see any of these teams being a threat to Denver, except for Clippers. Obviously, you know, Dallas
I was gonna say Dallas. Like, what do you think about Dallas, right? Because we all
Dallas
that
needs
playoff
a big-
Luka, and now he's gonna have Kyrie in the playoffs too, right? And they're gonna make a trade. I think they're gonna make a trade for a wing as well.
Dallas needs a pick. They showed you they've played lineups where Luka's been center.
Lively's been really good for them, the rookie. He's been
Yeah, but
good.
he's injured.
No, but he's gonna come back. But I'm saying, like, of course, everybody could use another big man. Could use another guy that can guard 6'8" guys.
Absolutely,
For sure.
absolutely.
And they're gonna make a trade. So
Sacramento 7th, you got Sacramento.
Phoenix is on the way up too. They've been very disappointing, but seems like they're hitting their stride.
And that's the team that I wanted to comment on.
Yes.
Phoenix, they're finally getting their strands on. You haven't seen Bradley Beal, Booker, and Kevin Durant play together for more than 5 games so far.
And you might never see it for long.
And you might, but the fact is that when you got 3 stars like that, it could be any one of them taking over a game. Devin Booker's been playing
that 50
excellent.
game, yeah.
He's been great.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant's been great. You just want to see where Bradley Beal's going to be in this, in terms of the offense and unfold with this, right? So he could take off any given time. It's just having the right pieces around that type of nucleus that you have to focus on and look forward to. For me personally, I think that it's still Denver's to lose,
Yeah.
just because they have their core, they have their players.
Jokic.
But at the same time, Denver shouldn't stop and press the brakes. They still need your Bruce Brown, your Jeff Green type of utility
Imagine they make
guys.
a trade and they get him back from the Raptors, right? Like,
Why not?
Yeah.
But they have the capital, they have their young guys. I wouldn't mind grabbing. But you see their development in Watson, in Braun, in that Strether, that guy. Like they're
Steve Nagy. They have some guys.
they've
They're all
got some
young
guys that
They're
are
all
young
okay,
guys,
yeah.
but they're trying to
playable.
exactly. They're
Learning
trying
on
to
the
fit
fly. Yep.
And
And
you
they've
got
been okay.
Jokic,
Right.
that's been your guy
Anchor.
to anchor.
Right.
So you can't go wrong with that, right? So now, where we need to be as a Western Conference team is to see what you need in terms of being a buyer, a seller. Obviously, Warriors. What do you
I was
do
gonna say,
with
Warriors,
that?
do they make the play in? Because right now they're out. And then the Lakers too. The Lakers right now are in 10th, but the Rockets are on the way up. Right? Like, Rockets are 500, 20 and 21.
I like the Rockets.
The Rockets, and I like them going into the
can
season.
play.
But I like them to be around the 500 team.
And that's what they're gonna be.
Yeah.
But they're a dog, and at the end of the day, I don't want to see the Rockets in the
No.
playoff time, right?
Fred,
They're one of those teams
Dylan
that you
Brooks.
don't want to play, right? You got Jabari Smith,
Jabari's
like
been playing a lot better.
Sengun has been
He's
unbelievable.
been crazy, yeah.
He's been great. You're gonna see him being the next Jokic
Maybe,
soon,
maybe.
just the way he's
Yeah.
been playing, right? So you don't want to see these types of teams, and if you do, you need to be able to anchor your team to be able to move past these types of teams. I'm not scared of the Lakers. I'm not scared of the Warriors.
Yeah, no.
They've just been too inconsistent.
Yeah.
You just don't know who's going to be playing at any given night. You got Draymond Green going on craziness. So, I mean, he's going to be back. Obviously, the Warriors are going to make your play in. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they're not. But where do they go from here next season? They're not
They're
re-signing
in
Klay
trouble.
Thompson.
They're
They're
in
in
trouble.
trouble.
They're in trouble.
They gave away their future.
They pissed off Kuminga too, right? Like with the playing time, and I think that they've kind of hindered his development. They're stuck with Wiggins, who's a lot of money and not that great of a player
Yeah,
right now,
yeah.
right? Like,
I'm
they're not
happy
doing
that the
well.
Raptors didn't get him.
I'm very happy they didn't get him. That's the last guy I would want on my team.
Absolutely. But you see, those are the mistakes that, other
Panic
GMs
moves.
are doing, the
Yeah.
panic moves. There's a reason Bob Myers got out of there when he did. He saw the decline in the way they were going down. It just, the Raptors are in a good place.
Are they?
They're in a good place because now we have salary cap. We don't have to worry about extensions right now.
I don't know. So like, let's compare the Raptors to the bottom teams in the West, right? So we'll start from 10. Even the Jazz, 9. The Jazz are in 9th right now. Would you rather have the Jazz roster or the Raptors?
Jazz roster.
Lakers. The Lakers have nothing after AD and LeBron, right? Like nothing.
Nothing.
Reeves looks terrible this year. The Rockets, I would take any day of the week over the Raptors roster. It's not even close. Like
Yeah.
5 top 10 picks.
But
right? All
then
play
the other
there.
issue with that is, though, Joe, like, yes, the Rockets are good, but at the
They're in the
same
West.
time, good in the West. Like, don't get me wrong, in the East, they're a 6th, 7th place
That's what I'm
team,
saying,
right? But that's all they're gonna be.
Really?
I don't see them going
So
past
Jabari
that.
Smith doesn't get better, and
They
Şengün,
are gonna
and
be
then-
good, but they still need that guy, and I
Another
don't
guy.
see that guy there.
Jalen Green isn't going to be that
I
guy.
don't think he's gonna
No,
be that guy. No.
Okay, because there's been a
That's
lot of
just
talk about
my
him.
opinion.
Yeah.
The thing with the Raptors is that you have that guy in Scotty Barnes, and he shows you. He almost beat the Lakers by himself if it wasn't for the free throws. Refs were watching you.
I love Scotty Barnes. I don't think he's a number 1 on a title winning team though. He's not like I don't think he's going to be a top 5 or even top 10 NBA player.
Really?
But I think in his prime he can be a top 20 NBA player.
I think Scotty Barnes can be your go-to guy if you need a bucket,
No,
which he will drive to the rim and he will get it to you.
I don't think so.
As if the refs actually call the foul.
Well, I was gonna say, like, do you see him? Yeah, Darko said it. Do you see him as being like a Shea, obviously not a Luka, a Devin Booker, like those guys that are in that class?
No.
He's not in that class
I
offensively.
don't think he is.
But that's what I'm saying.
But I do see him as a Giannis. I do see him as a driver. I do see him as a playmaker.
Yes.
He's a bigger
He's a
guy.
defender. He's a
not
playmaker.
a shooter.
Yeah.
He's not a shooter. But you do see him as that. LeBron James, he wasn't a shooter, but he always made the right plays at the right time. Now, don't
Yes.
get me wrong.
Yes.
I'm not saying
Yes.
Scotty Barnes is anywhere to that level of these like a LeBron James. But you see the same type of game where at a young age you would just get to the rim and get to
But I
the
mean, just
thing.
a guy that's like take over the game kind of thing.
But you've seen Scotty Barnes take over the game.
In what kinds
He's
of
been
games,
trying-
though? I'm saying,
And-
like, you
but
need to
don't
see
get
that
me
in
wrong.
and I know he hasn't had the opportunity, but like a playoff game to be like, okay, guys, give me the ball, it's my time.
But you don't.
I don't think that he's
we
that
haven't
guy.
been in that position.
I know, but okay, so let me. That's like me saying the Raptors said, let's give this a run and see what happens. If we put Scotty in a play-in, even if we say 2-3 years from now when he's in his prime, do you think Scotty Barnes, looking into your crystal ball, is like this guy is going to be a Shea?
I don't want
Devin
him to
Booker.
be those guys.
No, but
He's got to develop to the player that he's going to be. He's a spot-up shooter right now. He's been shooting his shots at a better rate. He's been better every year that he's played, and we can both agree
Yeah.
that Scotty Barnes is the best player on the Raptors.
yeah.
Even with Siakam there, he was the best player. He's an all-around NBA player. He could be the best player on a lot of teams right now. If he was in Houston, he'd be the best player on Houston. If he was in, let's just name a team.
So you take him over Şengün, obviously, then.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. If he was in New Orleans, he'd be the best player in New Orleans. If he was in I think other than
So
that,
here's to me, and like I don't want this to sound this because I do like Scotty a lot. Bought his jersey when he got drafted, big fan. It's just and Scotty. The thing that makes Scotty so great is that he's huge. He can dribble. He can play make. I'm just saying as a scorer, and I'm not saying look at he's dropped 25 or 30. You can talk about there's a few other guys. Giannis, great. I mean he scores points, but I would never call Giannis a great scorer, even though he has massive games.
but why?
I just
Just
think
because he doesn't shoot well?
I think that's it, and maybe like I said, I'm going off like maybe on a not a tangent. Just I don't know if it's valid or not, but like he's just not a guy that I would call like a bucket getter. He's not a tough shot
So then
maker.
how about Jokic?
Jokic does everything.
Yeah,
Jokic, you can throw him the ball and say, do it. All if Jokic wants to go every play and score, one-legged runners, bank shots.
but
He
you
will
can
do
say
everything.
the same thing about Giannis still, man. Because what has Giannis not done to show that he's not a scorer?
No, he is. Okay, sorry. That's what I was going to say. He is a scorer. I'm just saying there's guys you would take over. But same as Giannis. What makes Giannis so great? If Giannis was not the force he is and has been defensively, then I think that he's kind of in a different class. But Scotty's more like Giannis than he is any other guy we've mentioned.
Absolutely. But that's...
But I don't. But I think there's a big
Giannis
gap
has
to
delivered
get to Giannis.
No, but like I feel like the fact is that the reason why Giannis is so scary is that it doesn't matter how many times it takes, he will drive to the rim and get it in there. Doesn't matter how many times. The only way that we stopped him was that we had to build a wall of 3 players, and even then he still scored 40 on us. He still scored 30 on us.
And the thing too is Scotty's already better in a lot of facets than Giannis is, right? Like he's a
I'm
better
already
shooter.
bringing you on board. There you go. So you tell me right now.
But
if
Giannis is like
Scotty-
a 2-time MVP. Like and
if
again,
Scotty
he's younger.
was on Cleveland right now, would he be the best player? Is he better than Donovan Mitchell?
Again, this is very tough because this is not just scoring. This is as a basketball player.
As a basketball
Donovan Mitchell is a guy I'd rather give the ball to say score a basket.
Okay, fair.
But
if
you-
he was
you
in
would take-
Miami right now, would you rather Jimmy Butler or Scotty
I think
Barnes right now?
like what we've seen from Jimmy in the playoffs, everybody would take Jimmy.
Okay. On Indiana right now,
They could use him.
they
He'd be
could
the
use
best
it.
player.
I
And
don't
I
think
love
so.
Halliburton.
I think Halliburton's the best player there. I think him with Halliburton would be the best chemistry, but they got Siakam, which is
Yeah.
an older. Don't get me wrong, I see a lot of similarities between Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes as players. However, I do think that Scotty Barnes could surpass Siakam and become that number 1 guy.
You know, now that
Whereas Siakam is at best your number 2 guy.
I'm thinking about it a little bit, and Scotty's defense, like I was gonna
Scotty's
say,
defense is unmatched.
it is matched by OG. And I was talking with Zane yesterday about this, and he messaged me and said, you know what? I miss OG's defense. I'm gonna go just say something quick. I'll come back to it. I love OG, but what I told Zane is we had to set him free. He was here for a long time.
Absolutely.
They didn't really want him for the money he wanted. He was only so valuable. Like a guy like him that can play defense, you can throw on any team, he's going to fit in because you're never drawing a play for OG.
Yes.
But he's still going to get you 16 to 20 points a game.
Absolutely.
He's still going to guard guys, beat you up defensively, but never hit you. You know what I mean? He's just such a strong guy.
He's your ideal 3 and D. When you
Now-
think of OG, you think 3 and D.
Yes.
But
yes.
a D that can guard 1 through 5.
1 through 5, exactly, right? But he can also, like, if you have Anthony Edwards, he'll guard him. He'll guard
Absolutely.
Shea, he'll guard Luka. He'll
Absolutely.
guard Şengün if he has to.
Yes.
And he'll lock down Şengün to whatever he can. You
And
know what I
then
mean?
what's the difference between Scotty Barnes right now?
So Scotty to me, when I watch him as a defender, his one-on-one defense is not as great as his off-ball is. He's more of a guy where it's like, if you're guarding your guy, I'm watching once you get beat, I'm going to meet you at the rim and block the shot. Still a very good defender, but I think OG is more of like gonna get down and like play defense on you, whereas Scotty's more like I can't use all my effort on defense because I have to play on offense, not like OG does, and I'm gonna make more calculated decisions off the ball to kind of be more of a team defense guy.
Fair. But I'd rather that Scotty Barnes player, which is just going to be as effective offensively, if not more, than just a defensive guy that's just going to focus more on defense and not be.
Yeah, but there's
as
different
a
ceilings
threat
of
on-
players too, right? Like you'd rather, like right now in terms of trade value, Scotty's obviously the number 1, and then you could argue that OG might have more value than Pascal does at this point.
Absolutely. But What's more important for a team, though, it goes down to
Defense,
that.
which relates to winning, or Pascal, where he can get you more baskets.
No, but you need a playmaker as well. OG's not a playmaker. You need a guy that can dribble the ball, make the right decision at the right time.
Like if you're
as
the
well.
Lakers, for example, and you had your pick in a perfect
You'd
world,
get OG.
or Pascal.
No, but you'd get OG because you already have a playmakers as it is, right? You got your LeBron James that can play make, and that's what you need.
And
is
they
a
need
defender.
a defender that can free up guy. Well, LeBron's not guarding
Absolutely.
anybody anyway.
Absolutely, and you need a 3-point shooter. So OG would be the right pick for the Lakers.
Exactly. And OG was
But
the right pick for like OKC could use him.
I think
Every
every
team could
Siakam
use
was the perfect pick for the
Indeed.
Pacers because they're a fast-paced team, and Pascal is a fast-paced player. Fast break, fast break, fast break. Number one in fast breaks was the Indiana Pacers. Number two was the Raptors. Pascal Siakam had the most layups, the most finishes off of fast breaks this season. So you just put him
Matched
into
it
an
with
offense.
the
It just
perfect-
matched
yeah,
perfectly
yeah.
in that aspect. However, the conversation was Scotty Barnes. You want to build around a guy like that who's got a motor, who's got offense, who's got defense.
What's your
who's not
ceiling for
afraid.
Scotty Barnes? How good can he be comparing him to someone?
Giannis.
Giannis. Best case scenario is a Giannis.
Best case scenario is a Giannis. Worst case scenario, a Pascal Siakam.
So he will be an All NBA player.
He will be an All NBA. He
Well,
is right now an All NBA. player.
He might not be an All Star.
And that's fair,
Yeah,
but that's
I was
because the
gonna
Raptors are garbage. But Scotty Barnes is an
Scotty
All-NBA
Barnes will
player.
be an All NBA player. I
He's
don't
an
think he will
all-star.
be this year because he's gonna. So people forget too. His rookie year was great. He also had like he was.
He won
I
the
think he
Rookie of the
started.
Year, right?
He won Rookie of the Year, yes, because a lot of guys ended up getting hurt too. I remember the guy who I always
Mobley.
draw, Blake Mobley, was always hurt, and Mobley doesn't have that offensive game either,
Yes.
right? He's still kind of growing into it. Last year, Scotty had a down year. Now, what happened? They got rid of their two highest usage guys in Fred and Pascal now, and they're like, you know what? We want to see what we have, sink or swim.
Absolutely.
And he's last year again a down season after the Rookie of the Year. It was not good. People were questioning. You know, obviously he's still gonna be a good player, but how great is he gonna be this year? Took the ball, ran with it. He's been incredible.
And I think that's why we got rid of Fred VanVleet, because you needed Scotty to actually do that development. You didn't need Fred to dribble the ball. You didn't need him to make the decisions because Fred VanVleet, the biggest issue we had was that he held the ball for too long. With 3 seconds left, would chuck it up.
Yeah.
And that's where it was because he needed to build his stock. Fair enough,
Yeah.
did what he had to do.
Peace,
All the
yeah.
best to Fred VanVleet, one of the Raptors greats of our time. No problem. But now you got Scotty where you need to build around him. That's why you get a guy like Quickly. Great player, great playmaker. I think he's a Tyrese Maxey.
No, I like Quickly last year. He was restricted. I want the Raptors to go out and see if they could get him last year.
Absolutely.
I like Quickly a lot. They need it. Now the only thing is Quickly, he's probably like not a point guard. He's more of like a 2 guard, but he can
Absolutely.
handle the ball.
And that's what you like
But
to
now
see.
with Scotty, because Quickly can shoot the ball, it's gonna help in terms of spacing too,
Absolutely. You got RJ, which is a type of player that
right?
you
RJ is
can
almost like a smaller Siakam. Like he will
Yes.
drive to the rim.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He is still a little bit athletic. He'll throw it down, and he has.
100%. And then now you just need, how to build around those types of guys. I would love to get a 4 that can just a spot up shooter that you get to build around Siakam that can go get your rebounds as you need and everything. The reason why I don't think Siakam was fitting the mold of the Raptors right now, which I wouldn't mind having a guy like Siakam, it's just he's been terrible at shooting the ball this year.
And we talked about that off camera, but just because we're recording now, I was gonna say really quick. The analogy, not even the analogy, the example that I thought of is Pascal's a guy where Masai and the team went to him and said, "You are our scorer," right? He was been the leading scorer of this team ever since Kawhi left, right? This year they went in there and they're like, Fred's not going to feed you the ball the whole time. You're not going to be spinning off guys. We're going to give the ball to Scotty Barnes. When you get the ball, you're going to get the ball. You will get the ball, but you're not going to get your touches as you usually do. The ball will find you. And I felt like he was playing out of rhythm the whole season. There was that press conference that Masai had at the beginning of the year said there's going to be no selfish basketball. It was kind of rumors that it was between Fred and him, right, about getting the numbers. And I think that really effed with him a lot. I think that really messed him up.
But that's why you brought in a guy like Darko to change it. He's a player
And
development
they did,
type
but
of
remember at the beginning of the season
coach.
how like Pascal would have games would have like 12 points, 15
Yes.
points, because they're like, Scotty, do your thing. I think they also killed Pascal's value a little bit like that, because if he was playing at the level he was last year, like if Pascal was a shoo-in for the All-Star game, which he's not anymore, you could have got more too, I think. But at the cost of Pascal, we're seeing Scotty rise a little
Which
bit,
is
right?
which is what you want, essentially. I think that's the.
But I feel like Scotty was going to get there anyways. I feel like they forced it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? That's it. One last comparison I'm going to make to Scotty. We can kind of wrap this up, because I've been thinking in my head of guys, because we always talk about guys that are like that 6'9" that can handle. There's not too many of them. The only guy I can think of, and I don't think his game is nearly as smooth, but it's someone maybe he can strive to be, Paul George.
Paul George is a.
Obviously a much more polished offensive player, but as a guy who's like 6'9" that can actually dribble and shoot. Because there's not any guys that, like, once you get to the 6'6", 6'7", you'll get guys like that. They're not a dime a dozen, but they're a lot more common.
Yes.
6'9", 6'8", 6'10" guys that can do that, there might be 2 guys in the league.
I think Paul George
And a lockdown defender, kind of like
is I think Scotty is gonna be more like a Jimmy Butler, where he's not a shooter as consistent, but he will shoot when he needs to and he'll make that shot, as compared to Paul George, which is just a rhythm shooter, and it's like a guy that
smooth.
it's just smooth.
Yeah.
Scotty Barnes isn't smooth.
He's not smooth.
at
Exactly.
all.
No, that's what I was saying. Right?
Yes.
Like, and that's why I said, like, it's tough.
It's hard for me to think of Scotty Barnes as Paul George, because Paul George is like polished. Like
Yeah.
he'll do it in a step back and he'll
And you're
whack.
like, it looks like how a basketball player should play the game.
Exactly.
He's like a bigger James Harden almost. Where it's
Absolutely.
like,
I
boom,
think
boom,
Paul
boom, boom.
George is one of the most talented guys in the NBA. I think right now he's probably the best 2 guard in the NBA as a 2-way player. I think he's the best 2-way player.
I was
in
going
the
to say he's
NBA.
probably more of a small forward, but whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I think that's
Two-way
Kawhi's
player,
thing.
yes.
Yeah.
So that's my point. As a three as a guy that's a defensive and offensive player, I think Paul George right now this season is showing you,
And he's been healthy.
the
This is the
Pacer,
standard.
OKC.
Yeah.
This is the Paul George we know.
We've been waiting for it because he's been hurt for so long.
for so long. So I cannot see.
But I was going to say, like, you look at Giannis,
I can't.
who is again a Hall of Famer, one of the
Yes.
greatest,
Yes.
like 50 greatest
I
of all
think
time.
Giannis
But he's
could be
very
top
rugged,
15.
right? Like, it's not a smooth game. You compare to Paul George. That's what I'm saying. It's like right now, Scotty is a lot more Giannis.
But which
than
one
he is
translates to
Paul George.
winning though? That's the
I think
question.
both. I think both do, right?
I think
obviously
both
Paul George
do.
hasn't won a title yet.
Yes, but like that's why you can't really say that you want to beat that type of player as compared to a Giannis. Like I'd rather a Giannis because that's winning basketball. That's one that's actually been there,
Yeah.
won a championship.
But Giannis is
done-
another guy where it's like there's never been anybody like him before.
Do you see? But the thing is, with Paul George, he will never be the best player on his team.
That's what I was getting to back with Scotty, right? I think that's why that's a better comparison, because I don't see Scotty as being
I
a
think-
Finals MVP.
No,
And I know
but
that's way down the
But
road.
That's the issue though, because Giannis wouldn't have won that championship if it
Without
wasn't for Middleton.
No, of course, yeah.
And Drew Holiday,
Yes.
those types of players.
Yes.
Whereas, like I said, Giannis gets the points and does what he needs to do, but he needs that, secondary third guy. Siakam was that second to Kawhi. Kawhi is a first guy. I can
That's
see
what I'm
Scotty
saying, yeah.
Barnes as the first guy
Mm.
that needs a second guy to do what they need to do, where Scotty Barnes is gonna get you that 30 and 10 that night that you need, your 25 and 10 and 7 assists, because Scotty can do everything.
Yeah.
One thing that he's lacking on is that shot.
No, but this is what I was gonna say. His shot this year, like if you're looking at numbers, because a lot of people are numbers guys, I want to say he's shooting 40% from three.
And that's fine.
So we can't say that he's lacking the shot because
We're
he's not lacking it like it was.
But he's more of a playmaker than a shooter.
Yes, but he's still a
And
shooter.
more of a, he's not a shooter. Scotty Barnes is not a shooter, bro. He's just an open shooter.
See, these are those conversations I'm saying that are kind of tough to say because he's not your Paul George, like a Gary, like anybody that you would say that's a shooter on my team. But when you're shooting 40% and you're making 2 or 3
But yes,
a
but
game,
you're not. Your usage is not up. Like you're taking 4 a game, you're gonna make 2 of them. That's great, but you're not taking that shot. Your whole game is around you driving the ball. That's why you're not considered a
I think
shooter.
what held Scotty Barnes back previously was guys didn't have to guard him at the 3-point line. Guys are having to guard him. Now they're not in his face a hand always because they know that he's like more like LeBron. Maybe that and people are gonna say, oh LeBron, whatever. Maybe LeBron light is more of what he is in LeBron's prime. Obviously on a much lower level, you know what I mean? But like a massive guy that can dribble, score, not a great scorer, but still score 28 points a game.
Absolutely.
Not being in his bag, like have all these, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think that might be the best comparison. So
I think
there's
so as
there's
well.
Paul George, there's Giannis, and there's LeBron. Which of those three would you say that he's close? Not in terms of the level that those guys are at, but their
Giannis.
game. You would say
Giannis.
Giannis. And you know what? I'm gonna make this a clip. I want to know Raptors fans and NBA fans. Do you think Scotty's more of a Giannis, a Paul George, or a LeBron James, looking now and then also into the future? Because I would love to see what people think of that.
Let's see.
And I think
guys.
those are good comparisons too.
I think so too. I think you can add your Jimmy Butlers as well into it.
Jimmy Butler is still more of like a. I
dog.
don't think. Yeah, like I don't think it's not even the physical where it's like he's gonna beat you up mentally and physically. Jimmy's just one of those guys where it's like he never had that like God-given skill. Obviously, he's in the NBA, but just kind of like Kobe. And I'll tell a quick story about that because I always used to say there was Paul George, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Kobe Bryant. Those are probably the four guys of that era
Dwayne Wade?
that were but of that era before him, where they're all the 6'6" guys that all had different levels. Vince and T-Mac, athleticism, everything, like skill-wise, were ahead of Kobe. What separated Kobe? That guy was in the gym every day working on
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
If Vince would have had Kobe's ethic, I think Vince would be a better player than Kobe. If he had that Kobe mindset. He never had it. That's why he was what he was, right? But anyways, that's pretty much my thoughts on that. As we wrap up, anything else you want to add to Scotty or any Raptor stuff? Or?
No, I just think that it's been an exciting season so far. The Raptors have been on their highs and lows. I think that we should be still selling. I think that the rebuild is among us. I think we should be taking that route of the OKCs, of your Houston Rockets, of your San Antonio.
Collect assets, draft guys.
Exactly. That's where we need to be. That's how we need to go about it. I think you've got a great nucleus now with your big three and RJ quickly and Scotty. You want to build around guys like that, play around guys like that, and you just move forward. I think Scotty is your star. He's going to be a star for years to come. I think we're good with that aspect. Now, what are other teams going to do? It's going to be a fun season ahead. I still think that there's teams that are buyers and losers. I think Atlanta needs to break up their team. I think Brooklyn's on a great...
DeJounte's another guy supposed to go. Let's quickly talk about guys at the deadline. DeJounte's supposed to go. I'm trying to think of anybody. Markkanen's another guy that could go at the deadline.
Yeah.
Is there any team that needs to make a trade, and if so, who? Lakers obviously have to do something.
Lakers need to make a trade. I think Minnesota, OKC. OKC is in a very particular place because they want to develop their young guys. Their young guys can develop and flourish soon because they're successful, because of the growth that they've done. But you have that success now? Do you capitalize on it? That's
the thing. It's like, do you do what Masai wanted to do, where you like let these guys play, or do you say because if you add a guy like whether it be Pirtle, Markkanen, whoever, Markkanen's another guy that they could use too because they have so many assets, picks, and everything. Would you want to risk messing up what they have as 29-13? They have the same record as the Bucks do right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both in second place.
Yeah.
Like that, like they are arguably the best team in the NBA.
Yeah.
They just beat the #1 team in the T-Wolves.
And
Right,
that's,
so it's like,
that's
do you
what's
wanna-
scary about it because you got such a young core that's doing so good. But where do you go with this? Are you just going to be a regular season success or are you actually going to capitalize and move forward with it? You got your 76ers. I think the Bucks need to get an asset or two.
Yeah.
The Sixers need an asset or two. I think the only teams that you don't touch right now,
Boston.
there's only two teams, which is
Boston
Boston and I'm sorry,
Denver?
Not Denver. Denver needs
Because
an
Denver
asset
needs
as
something.
well.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's the Cleveland Cavaliers.
But the Cavs are going nowhere.
But even New York, those teams you don't touch, you don't mess with it because you've got a great core, you got a team that works, and it's on an upward trend. Like you can get obviously, a lower end role
Three and D kind
player
of guys,
type of
like that,
guys,
yeah, yeah,
but
core.
the core I'm talking about, you to add or not, those are the only guys that I see that need a guy that's gonna be a higher usage type of player. Right now you got your usage players, but you need those players that
Mix and match.
mix
Kind of
and
drop
match.
in like
Yes,
some
that will go off for 15 and 10 a night type of players. Those are the guys, whether it be 5-10 assists, whether it be rebounds, whether it be a steal or two or a couple points, just to take the pressure off of on.
And maybe give
some
some
of
guys
these
some rest, some time.
Absolutely.
Back to back to add some more
guys.
minutes.
Exactly.
Okay,
You're
so-
Bruce Brown type of players.
So I was gonna say every contender could use a guy like that.
Yes.
Lastly, as we end, I want you to pick a East and a West final. Doesn't matter if they match up yet based on seedings and updated who you think might win. So go to the West.
So
Who
for
you
the
think comes
West, I still got Denver. I won't shy away from Denver. I think they're the team to lose the championship
Yeah.
because they're winning it if they continue on the same type of trajectory. If they add a couple of guys, on the deadline, which they should. And I'm still gonna pick with Milwaukee. I think they'll figure it out. I think defensively they've been a little shaky, but I think they're gonna add maybe a player or two, get into that mindset of hey, let's get it. We're here. We need to wake up. And with the leader in Giannis, and if they stay healthy, I think it's gonna be a Milwaukee and Denver final.
I have Boston and Milwaukee in the East. Still, I was looking. I don't think Philly Philly to me is always like the third wheel in all of these conversations for the last ever since the Raptors lost their team in 2019. To me, it's always been Boston and Milwaukee by themselves. I'm still gonna go Boston here. I think Boston still wins the East. In the West, it was tough because I have three teams that I'm kind of juggling with: Denver, Clippers, and OKC. I think it was right around Christmas time. OKC, I still had them at like 40-1 to win the championship, which is insane. I think they're at like 12-1 now. It's just when I look at it, it's tough because I don't know if I can't really see them beating Denver. I don't think anybody can. And then with the Clippers, I do think that Harden's kind of found that spot where it's like Paul George and Kawhi are ahead of him. So it's like being the third guy is easy for him now. There's no pressure from having to like take the team on his back and win. So I'm gonna go Denver Clippers in the West Final. I don't know. I don't even know if I would pick in that because I think I might still have Boston winning it all. So I'll go Denver Clippers, Boston, Milwaukee, conference finals, and then probably Denver and Boston in the finals then.
And who do you have winning that if it was to go down to the wire?
Yeah, man, Boston's just so good. I don't know. I want to say Denver, but Boston, I think I'll go Boston. Like as of right now, and it could change only because gun to my head, I'll take Boston, but that's what I have right now.
Nice.
But I kind of hope that OKC can like get to a final. I think that'd be pretty crazy.
I can
Like,
see
even if
them
they-
going to a semis.
But even if like they played Denver in the West final, that would be crazy. If OKC gets to the playoffs and they lose to either in the conference semi to either the Clippers or Denver, I think that's a big positive for them, right? Because they're going to be a finals team in 5 years, I think.
Yeah, I could see that. I could even take it down
In
to the
a
next
few
3
years,
years,
right?
yeah.
Like the only thing is Jokic, you still have to go through him until he retires. That's the only thing, right?
Which is true, and they have to add assets, and their team's only developing as well. You got Porter growing, Aaron Gordon growing. You got Jamal Murray being Jamal Murray and staying healthy. Denver is going to be a problem for years to come because they got that core, and then you've
And
got
Jokic is going to be
Jokic is going to be just horse racing and winning championships.
It's going to wrap up our NBA. We're going to come back and talk some NFL and wrestling as well. We'll see you guys in a few minutes. As
Take
you
care,
tune in
guys.
on
See
the
you
vlog.
soon. I think that's been our longest episode.